Joining us today on the Yankees Go Yard podcast, returning guest and one of our favorites of all time. So grateful to have him back. Joba Chamberlain is here again to talk Yankees post-deadline, the second half, and a little bit more about his experience with trade deadlines in the past. Joba, how are you doing? Thanks so much for making the time for us again.
Good. Other than it being 100+ degrees here for like the last week, it's been pretty good. We got my son finished his season, and we kind of just hanging out, just enjoying the last couple of weeks we have before he goes to college, and hopefully has to deal with this madness of what baseball has become and what it is. So I'm excited for him. And it's a new journey for me as a dad going through it. Now it's completely different than what it used to be. So it's super exciting on both ends and nerve-wracking as a parent. So I kind of got, I guess, the best and worst of both worlds, I guess. So
excited
we'll see.
Excited to see what that's like for you. Obviously, would love to hear more. We'll keep in touch for sure. The New York Yankees are our favorite team, and the team that called you up and introduced you to us. They have executed a trade deadline of some kind. Was it a successful one? Unsuccessful? Incomplete? Not sure. But we wanted to start there, get your thoughts on what they did or didn't accomplish in your eyes. Jazz Chisholm is a Yankee. He's playing third base for the first time in his professional career. It's going pretty well so far, but still pretty weird that that's happening. Mark Leiter Jr. looks kind of like a dog out of the bullpen. Enyel De Los Santos also joins the Yankees, but crucially, no rotation help. So early thoughts, obviously way too early to judge, but what have you seen so far from the Yankees deadline additions? Do you think they did enough? And if not, what were they missing?
I think it was a weird deadline in general, just because there wasn't like one that kind of blew you away. I think it was a deadline where it was bits and pieces that filled spots. Love the energy that Jazz. I was weird seeing him play third base, and I'm like, did we lose our minds, or like what's going on here? And I'm like, we're still running Trent Grisham out. Like, and granted, it's been a little bit better, but not the greatest. The energy and just, the swag that he brings to it, I think is a great added dynamic for sometimes when, this clubhouse gets a little mundane and what it is, and seeing, Leiter be fired up and do those things. I think they were great pieces added. I don't know if they're necessarily game changers, but we also have, game changers already on the field. So I think from the perspective, they added some pieces that could help us in the run going into it, obviously being tied for first right now and seeing what we're doing and obviously playing the way we have with exactly, the injuries and the stuff, and Garrett coming back off, the DL. He has a 5.4 since he came off, and that's just not Garrett. We all know that. But I think they added some pieces that are definitely needed to withstand this long haul and, the battle that it's going to be to win the East and be in that position to take the East and go from there. So I think, and obviously seen DJ come on strong too lately, with a game winner, coming with 6 RBIs. And so we all knew he's going to hit. He wasn't going to be that bad for that long. So I think there are pieces that added. I think, with what they did with Glaber, I think is very much needed. And I'm assuming, I'm not going to, you know what they say about assumptions, but I'm assuming Judge pulled him aside too and was like, hey, sometimes this is what you need. Tough love is sometimes good love. You know what I'm saying? And, you can't do that. So especially if you want to get to where you want to be the last one standing, it takes all pieces. And I think they added some pieces to it. I think they've done a good job in kind of managing and navigating through this whole, injuries and this and that, and, figuring out who fits where and adding those couple pieces. I think it's nothing that, like I said, blew your socks off, but at the same time, great pieces that fit into kind of a dynamic that is needed, I think. I mean, the energy and bringing in somebody with, the personality of Jazz. Like it is it is what it is. It speaks for itself. So, and I think it's great, and in a great position right now. With what, less than 60 games left now, and see what happens and go from there.
How, before we ask specifics on what you feel about these couple of deadline moves and some of your experience during trade deadlines during your career, you're on the other side of the coin now. You've been watching games for quite a while. You've been following baseball for quite a while. Are you dialed in like we are? Are you refreshing Twitter on trade deadline day? Are you got a list of players that you think the Yankees should acquire, and you're holding Brian Cashman to the fire, sitting at your desk? Like, I want to know kind of what you're going through on deadline week.
I mean, I can't refresh enough. I literally have to restart and make sure I'm plugged in, because my phone battery and my iPad's going to die and my computer's all plugged in. And when you get to that point, you're always anticipating that. That one that's going to be like, holy cow, here we go. All right, now. And there were some really good trades. Don't get me wrong. It was a lot of prospect loaded trades, but yeah, I mean, I thought there would be a splash. I mean, and I'm not bagging on Jack Flaherty at all, but like, when that's one of the biggest names to get traded, it was just, like I said, kind of a mundane trade line. Like, we thought Skubal maybe will get traded, Crockett from the White Sox, and some big splashes here and there. But yeah, going through it, leading up to it, it's like we all do. It's like, okay, let me go to ABC website to see what they're thinking. And then you kind of make your own assumptions and abbreviations of what those trades could be, couldn't be, what we would like to see. And that's what I mean. That's what I love about the deadline is because we play our own general manager, right? Like, and this is what we need. This is who we should go after. And, based upon, what Cash had said with Flaherty, is like, oh, we tried, but it just didn't match up or whatever. Whether that's true or not, I couldn't tell you. I mean, being one of those ones that heard he was getting traded at the deadline for probably 3 straight years, you're just like, man, whatever. Like, you just kind of got to go about your business. But no, for sure. Like, I love going up to it like the week before when, there's one trade and you're like, okay, it's about to go down. Here we go. And it's just exciting because you don't know. And, the draft is kind of the same way. And, we had 2 of Carter's buddies got drafted out of high school this year, which was cool to see for them. And so it's just, you never know. And that's the exciting part about it, which just, keeps you on your heels, and like, you get excited to see, what's going to happen, and if they're going to make a move, and what they do, and how they do it, and how they navigate who they get rid of or who they keep. And I didn't think they would do a big one, to be personally honest, just because the prospects that we have coming up are so valuable that I think they probably wanted a lot in return for one of those, if there was a big name to come out, with obviously Jason and Spencer and a handful of others that they would probably want in the mix, where I just, it would have been too much to give up to try and win now, I think. But yeah, I get excited, and, watching these people, and I'm not that far removed, so I still know some of them. So it's like, you have a little bit of heart in the game still, to where it's like, I still know these guys. Like, I want to see, oh, they moved again. And like, it's just a fun time of the year, because you're getting almost to the dog days of summer, and, guys moving and shaking, and things can happen. And it's, this is a fun time of the year for me, about mid-August. And then you get your September call-up guys, which just makes everything a little bit more crowded, but a great experience for those guys. And so I think they put themselves in a good spot. Like I said, there was no really blockbuster things. I mean, and you never know. Sometimes change of scenery is great. Sometimes change of scenery doesn't do a damn thing for you. So we'll see what happens in the long haul and how it plays itself out. But I think they're in a good position for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned Flaherty and the prospects, and Flaherty being the biggest name, you're right. Like, no disrespect to him. He's a good pitcher, but we've seen Max Scherzer get moved at the deadline. We've seen Justin Verlander get moved at the deadline. But given the Yankees' issues for the pitching staff in general, with length, with injuries, with the bullpen being worn down, with the back end of the starting rotation now being worn down, we think about them not getting him after the prospect package from the Dodgers was revealed. We're sitting there, we're thinking the injury concerns are legitimate, and we would say, yeah, that's something that has to be considered throughout this process, but it didn't really look like an overpay. It looked like you could have barely exceeded that and not given up any of the important names. So as someone who looks at the farm system a lot and knows the kind of caliber of pitcher Jack Flaherty is, what was your take there?
It was a little bit twofold, because if you look at it both ways. Jack was traded last year at the deadline too. And like I said, sometimes change the scenery, sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. And, he pitched to a 6 last year after the deadline. And it was with the O's. AL East. Does that so that was kind of one thing where I was thinking about it as I was looking up numbers and seeing kind of what it was, because I know he got traded at that point, but then being able to then look at it constructively and like, okay, well, he went to this division last year, and mind you, it's like, you don't really look at his record, you look at his numbers, just because obviously Detroit's not the greatest team in the world, but he pitched to a 6.4. And then got pushed out of the rotation last year in this division. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, I kind of looked at it both ways. Like, yeah, he's kind of back to form in the Central, and we're all baseball fans. The Central's not the greatest, but you still got to go out and execute. And he's pitched, and his numbers are great. But then it was just like digging a little deeper and going into it. I'm like, it kind of made sense, because you kind of seen of what he did last year in this division, get pushed out of the rotation. And basically it would be kind of the same thing. Obviously each year is different. We all know that, but he's experienced this division and we've seen what he has done. I think it was probably a better fit for him to go to LA anyways, because he's a SoCal kid and whatever. So better fit for him. Obviously, he doesn't have a choice. It's not like he'd be like, hey, I don't want to go here. I want to go here. Well, when you get to that point and you can choose to do it, then you've obviously earned that right. So, but yeah, I think I didn't hate it either way. Let's just put it that way. If, with the way he's pitched this year, it'd have been nice to add the arm. But then at the same time, I look at it from the other end. If we didn't get him, then I really wasn't too butthurt, just because of the mere fact I've seen what he's done in this division and in the same situation at the deadline. Now you're coming to the East. Yep. Same situation. There was nothing different. Obviously pitching a little bit better this year than he did last year, but same division and everything. So I was I wasn't pissed, and I wasn't like upset that we didn't get him. And I wasn't pissed that, if we got him.
So you're like, all right, fine. We're not going to be directly facing him, at least.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And seeing what he did at the deadline last year too, kind of was like one of those ones where I was just like,
yeah, okay,
cool if we do. It's like, damned if we don't. No, not really, because we've seen what he's done. And like I said, each year is different, but I think we're okay with what we have, and obviously good enough to win. Being healthy, I think Garrett's going to come back and do what he does. Yeah, there's all bumps in the road. I mean, everybody would lose their mind when Mo would blow like 2 saves, and they'd be like, oh, he's done. And then he ends up getting 50. Like, easy, people. Like, you go through stretches. It's baseball. Like, come on, relax here for a second.
And if we do run into Flaherty again, not a bad place to run into him. That means you've moved on to the World Series.
That means you're in the right spot for sure.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be too scared. I want to stick on Leiter Jr. for a second, too, which I think is an underrated acquisition. And based on how he's been used over his first couple games here, already proven to be sort of essential to the bullpen. I think 4 out of the first 5 games, and one of which he showed up in the I don't even know if he was there by first pitch in Philly, but he was pitching extra innings. I think
It's in the 10th.
yeah, pitched in the 10th, got out of the ghost runner. I think fans who weren't aware of what he brings quickly learn that he's sort of got that familiar fire, and that an escape artist in the bullpen needs, swing and miss that the bullpen's been lacking all year. I mean, what do you see when you watch him pitch, and what are your early thoughts there?
Well, I mean, first of all, my Twitter goes crazy when he fist pumps because everybody like brings me up again, and I'm like, damn, let the kid be himself. Shit, like. So it's just one of those things where I love the energy. Like I love what he brings. Obviously, he's literally stepped up in an aspect of like has seen what he can do in certain situations. And I mean, it's one of those things where you add that type of fire, you add that type of energy, and I think it's contagious. And, we've kind of seen it from both sides, just Jazz in his first game. He's like, Aaron, I'm going to use your bat, and then hits a home. Like just that, those interactions, that energy, that camaraderie, that, just new livelihood of a clubhouse. Because sometimes I don't care what anybody says. We're all grown men, but change is sometimes weird.
Yeah.
And you don't know if you're going to be accepted or not. And it's like, you just go be yourself. And not everybody's going to like you anyways. We all know that. Like we're realistic. That's just the way it is. But to come in, to provide a spark, to do those things, I think obviously the name Leiter comes with a little bit of weight, so, but he's gone out and he's absolutely proven with his numbers and everything that he's done that he is an integral part of what's going to be successful back in that bullpen. And I think it's a great sign. I love his energy, his moxie and just how he carries himself on the mound and the things that he does and has done so far. So, like I said, not a blockbuster name in a trade, but something that is going to play a major role in what this team needs to do to be successful. And I think he'll be a big part of it.
Yeah, I think Jazz is similar, as you mentioned, energy and change of scenery comes from the Marlins, where things haven't really been good for a while. We were pre-deadline. These rumors came out about the Yankees going after him. I had concerns, not because I believe all the BS that was said about him, but I'm sitting there and I'm like, even whether it's true or not, like this stuff's going to follow him to New York. These are going to be the headlines. All he needs is an 0-12 start. And
right.
and then look, and then what the New York Post is looking like, what the blogs are looking like we're guilty of that too. We would certainly be jumping in and analyzing things at that point. But did you have any concerns like that in terms of that baggage following him and it impacting the clubhouse or something of that nature?
There was a slight hesitation, really, but that goes back to kind of what I said, though. It's like New York is a place where if you are who you are, they embrace you, good and bad. And so there was a slight hesitation, but there was also one of those things where they embrace ones that are real to themselves and who they are, and I've experienced that firsthand. And just the understanding, like, I know you're going to hate me when I suck, and I'll be the first one to admit I suck. You don't have to tell me, like, I know. And so that slight hesitation at the first was like, only because I don't know Jazz. I've never had an encounter with him. I don't know him, so I can't speak on that behalf. But I also at the same time know how New York can swallow you up.
Exactly.
So the hesitation was like, how is he going to be able to handle it? Is he going to bark back? Is he just going to wear it? Is he going to – obviously you got started off on the right foot. Let's just be perfectly honest. Like that's not a bad way to start your career in New York. Like that's a good way to go. So that was the only thing really. I mean, the stories and whatever, but the only hesitation when that first came out, and that was kind of what we were going to, because realistically, I thought it was going to sew up him being in the outfield. I didn't expect him to play third. Yep. I mean, surprised me. I hope it surprised you guys too, because I didn't expect it at all.
Because I thought it was. We thought, we couldn't believe that. I guess on the surface we were like, did they not communicate anything with Gleyber Torres or Alex Verdugo?
Like, somebody's getting displaced. Whether Aaron Judge going to lose center ups, like
they didn't communicate, and then they were like, Jazz, you're playing third, I guess.
Learn third.
Yeah, here you go, and then making plays, hitting. I was just like, it was just, first of all, it's weird seeing him in the. It's weird sometimes when you watch the guy play, and then they put a different uniform on, and it's like, that just looks weird. Like it's a little strange. Like, and then to see you at third base, and I'm like, I actually thought I was losing my mind, because I'm like, let me go back to Baseball Reference to see where, like, and I'm trying to go back through and look, and I'm like, I don't think he's ever played third base. I'm like, what is going on here? I thought we were trying to sew up an outfield spot. Obviously, somebody's going to have to move. And I was like, I don't know what the heck's going on. So that just hesitation a little bit of how he was going to handle it, knowing obviously from afar. Like I said, I've never met the guy, don't know him, never met the man. But from afar, and his just charisma and what he is, was the little hesitation of how he's going to handle it when there is, criticism and whatever. And especially you're coming down to this time, you're tied for first. I guess I didn't even check the standings today.
Yeah, they're tied, I think.
Yeah,
they're tied still, right? Yeah. Did the White Sox lose the 21st? They're almost tied for the record.
Yeah, they sure did. They sent out a guy making his MLB debut to go from 20 to 21. It did not go great.
Oh, and they lost the Orioles last night? Oh, they lost to the A's. They lost to Oakland. Oh boy, that's a rough one. So I think it's a great fit. I mean, obviously we can't expect him to do everything that he's done so far. You know what I'm saying? And how and I think nobody really knows what to expect when you get here, because it's completely different than anywhere. I think especially in Miami, like nobody gives a shit what they do in Miami. Like it's so, it's one of those things. If you're a baseball fan, you obviously know who he is and whatever. But I think at the same time, it gets to that point where he's going to get it at some point. And it's just, that is just the way it is. And it's just how he's going to react to it, how he handles it. I thought Verdugo would be a little bit of, somebody that kind of backlashed a little bit, but he's handled it great, good and bad on both sides. I think, he's handled it in a better way than I really thought he was going to be honest with you. And so I think great move. Hearing it from the first, I like I said, I had a little hesitation, because I'm like, man, somebody with that. And this is being judgmental. I'll be the first one to admit it, just because I don't know him. I can only watch the way he plays and what he does. But I also know what the fans in New York expect and certain things and how that goes. So that was only, I was like, we're getting a quality player in every aspect in what he does. Hell, I didn't know he's going to play third base, but I guess, hey, did Cash do something good for once?
Feels like it. Too. Feels like it.
I mean, hey, tip your hat where your hat's due, right? Like, you did it. So, great move. It's really, it'll play itself out and see how it goes in the whole realm of things. But I think it's a great move too, just for energy. And not to say that there wasn't energy in the clubhouse and how they do things, but there's some dudes that are just different, right? That wear their heart on their sleeve, that, show it in different ways. Like, obviously, in Aaron Judge being the captain and whatever, like, you very seldom see emotion, which that's just who he is. That's the way he plays. And he's damn good at it. Let's be perfectly honest. He is really, really good. But there are certain guys that just provide a different spark because you need a balance of all of it. You need that level-headed superstar. You need somebody that's fiery. You need something, and that works. That works. And they do it in different ways. Like, he's calm and subtle. This guy's going to jump your butt. This other guy's just going to show you by example. And they all correlate together. And then you got the loud, outspoken one, the guy that shows energy. Like, they all work together. Every winning team that I've been on, there has been those dynamics in that entire clubhouse. And that has made it work. And you got to have it. You got to have it. You can't just be like, I'm working a 9 to 5. I show up to the yard. Boom, here I go. Boom, here I go home. No, that doesn't work. Does not work. It needs to be a family. It needs to be tough love. It needs to be an arm around me when I'm scuffling. It needs to be some jackass that makes a funny and is just that dude. Like, there's just those dynamics that come together as one and you win. And it's our 15th year anniversary at Old Timers Day this year. And that was the complete dynamics of what we had. We had Derek. We had Jorge, who would jump your butt. You had Cece, who would be the first person to take you out to dinner. You'd have AJ that you didn't know what AJ, you just had to look at his locker and see what Buddha was pointed. If it was happy, you could talk to him. If it wasn't, you're like, stay the hell away from you. And then you had Swish, and you bring him in, and it's just those different dynamics is what made us great. And eventually we end up winning World Series. And so I think that's the pieces that have kind of been put together in this team. I think it's the great direction. I think there's some of that going on. It feels that way for me from afar. I'll find out next week if it's really truly genuinely that, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think it's all encompassing of what it is. It's been added to the way that it should have been. And I'll be the first person to admit I'm not a Brian Cashman fan, but I think he did a pretty good job in adding those right pieces for what he first and foremost has seen, second is experienced, and what this team probably needed. Would I have liked a dynamic, like, impact, immediate guy? Yeah, I mean, we all do. Every team does. But I think that pieces that he put in, I think are right where it needs to be. And, you know, seeing the things that they've done and embracing New York and embracing what it is to be a Yankee, I think that it's been a great deadline overall. Just because there was nothing crazy. And I mean, Dodgers and obviously the Padres, and AJ Preller does whatever the hell he wants to do, which is pretty impressive. I'm not going to lie. So, but yeah, I think we're in the right spot, and I'm excited to see these last, get out of the way. Golly. Talk baseball, and next thing you know, I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah. It's happened. I'm surprised you haven't seen my dog Biscuit walk in yet, but I'm sure it will happen at some point by end of show. I'm glad you brought up the Old Timers Day reunion, because we were going to ask. I mean, you're going back. Do you know who else is going back? Who are you excited to see?
You know what? It's kind of one of those things where I'm like, I don't know who I'm going to. Of course, we're going to see Swisher. You know that.
Yeah, Swisher might be on the tarmac when you get off the plane.
I mean, he's probably already there. Yeah, no, like, to see guys like Matsui and, and some of the people that you kind of forget about, like the Phil Kokes of the world. And, obviously CC's going to be there because he lives here. Get out of the way. Go somewhere. Thank you. Golly. AJ, still stay in touch every so often with those guys. But it'll be like Jerry Hairston that people forget about was on our team. Like, he's going to be there. He will. I mean, that dude was notorious. He's like, "Hey, can I get an extra shirt? Can I get this? Can I get that?" I'm like, Jerry, geez, really? Like, you don't have enough? Like, your whole family's been in the big leagues. Like, you act like you've never been around this before. Like, what are we doing? So yeah, like, is Damasio Marte going to show up? Like, just those guys. And one of my favorites ever, and Chin-Ming Wong. Like, I hope he shows up. Just to be able to see those guys, and like to think it's been 15 years already. And I'm like, man, this is weird. And I can't stay the whole time because then I have to get back here to make sure I get my son ready to go to college. So I'm like, well, this will be a whirlwind week. But no, looking forward to it. I said I wasn't going to shave or cut my hair until my son went to college, but that's going to change. I'm not going clean shaven, no chance. I'll trim it up nice. But yeah, no, excited to see those guys and just, kind of, I guess, not relive the moment. I know Andy's going to be there probably. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe he's busy too. You never know. But no, super excited about it. To be able to, relive it. I gave my dad my ring, and he's not very good at keeping it clean. So I actually just got it cleaned yesterday, and it brought back some memories, and how cool it was, and just that group that we had, and how everything was, just ebb and flow of like the personalities and all the other stuff, and how it went. So yeah, I'm super excited. I don't know what the hell we're going to have to do. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm probably going to throw, which is no problem because I play catch with my son all the time. So I still got a little left in here. I don't know if it's 100 anymore, but I still get to, I hit 92.
There we go.
I still got a little bit left. I'm definitely not throwing that hard if I have to throw on Old Timers Day. I didn't want to go to Old Timers Day until I was 40. And I'm not even 40 yet.
Yeah, because you're not. Yeah, 40 seems like the good cutoff where it's like, I'm feeling old now. Games pass me by. Like, you look at very few guys make it to 40. Like, you have Scherzer and Verlander, and like Kershaw's mid-30s, and he's breaking down quick. So yeah, I think that you had the right cutoff, but got to celebrate when you can, right?
Yeah, you got to do it. Is it a douchey move if you wear your ring? Do I wear my ring?
I think if you do, you're not going to be the only one for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you'll be fine.
I didn't know what the move was there. I don't know.
I would maybe wear it, but then if it seems like it seems like Swish is being
and like just slide it in your pocket. Be like,
but bring the little box. Okay. Like if you got a case, something you could subtly put it back into if you have to.
That's probably the move right there for sure.
We also I'm excited. I'm more excited now than I was when we started talking. That's gonna be great. You mentioned I think earlier, change of scenery could be good for some, not great for others, and you never know what effect it's going to have on a clubhouse until you get into that clubhouse with those guys for a longer period of time. You went through some pretty impactful trade deadlines. I mean, with the Yankees, you bring in, Lance Berkman, Kerry Wood in 2010 is kind of an underrated, I guess these guys are here now deadline. You've definitely been through some impact additions. Want to get your perspective on, what it really does mean to a clubhouse when you get sort of that transformative deadline addition, whether it's a huge name or like the Yankees did this year when they filled needs, got chemistry fits, etc. Just touch on some of your experience with, bringing in some guys, whether they're really heralded names or slightly under the radar names that definitely changed the trajectory of a season.
It's always weird in that aspect, just too, because you don't know. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like you obviously know them as players, but you don't necessarily know them like how they're going to fit with the dynamic of a clubhouse. And I think one of the things where it's just you have to let them be them and let the chips fall where they may. And I think Lance was hilarious. Like, as you saw in the playoffs, like he hit a home run. We were in Minnesota, took his shirt off and acted like Swish, and it was hilarious. Like, it was awesome. Like, I've never laughed so hard. And I was like, never expected it from a dude like Lance Berkman. Like, and obviously him and Andy were great friends. They knew each other and whatever. But when he did that, I'm pretty sure I peed a little bit because I was laughing so hard. And then Woody is awesome. He was such an absolute like guy. And there were times during that season where I would get frustrated and he would just be like, hey, it's fine. This happens and this is where it goes. Not that I condone dipping, but he's the first person to ever teach me how to put a dip in my top lip.
A good dip.
Skull apple.
Skull apple.
Yeah. That was
long
Woody.
cut, I hope. No pouches.
No pouches. No, it was the actual thing.
Good.
But no, those like, and like you said, it's the unheralded names. Like, and obviously those are big names in baseball. Like, they are synonymous with a lot of really good teams and really good accolades and what they have done. And so I think it's just going through and like for the few years that I heard that, I was going to be traded for Roy Halladay and like all these other things. It's like, you always wonder how you're going to fit in the clubhouse, how that changes and what your dynamic is and all those things. And we're human beings. And that, I think that sometimes gets lost in with what fans see, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Where
they see us as baseball players, but you got to understand we're still human beings. And like going and change is sometimes very, very difficult, as anybody in life has seen and done. Change is hard sometimes, and some people adapt, some people don't. And, when you go to a new team, it's like, yeah, you want to be yourself, but okay, now I have to find a new place to live. I have to figure out my surroundings and yet still have to compete and help this team win. And that's the reason and there's just so many dynamics that I think a lot of people don't really realize, where it's like, okay, I just got traded. I'm going to get there on Tuesday. Don't have a place to live. Don't know what I'm doing. Let me pack my stuff up, get on a plane and head there. Yep. That's all you do. Show up to clubhouse, may not know anybody. And so I think it goes, not to say without thought or intuition of people that see things, because change happens in everybody's life. But I mean, when we traded for Ichiro, we were in Seattle. He literally went from one dugout to the other the same day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was awkward as shit for me, let alone, I could only imagine. And obviously I was young at the time, so I didn't know like the hindsight. So I was like, I was surprised. Like, he probably knew, but like, that's weird. We're in the same stadium and you go from one clubhouse to another. Like that, it's weird. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says, because it's weird for us. And then it's like, you embrace them and you care for them and you want them to obviously help you win, but it's still weird. And the expectations of like coming into a new clubhouse is tough sometimes. Some people handle it better than the others, but some don't. And it's just, I wouldn't say it's weird. I wouldn't say it's awkward. It's different because you don't know their personality in the aspect of like, can I poke at you? Can I not? Are you serious? Whatever. Like when AJ came over, obviously I had faced him when he was in Toronto. Then he comes over, he signs, and they're like, hey, just look at his booted. What? And I'm like, this dude is the softest human being. He is so nice. Like, this damn Buddha doesn't say anything. Like, he acts like a tough guy, but AJ is the softest, most nicest person in the world. Do anything for you. And I'm like, he puts that little tough man thing with all his tattoos and all the other stuff. But this guy is one of the softest, most loving fathers to his kids, because he would get tattoos because his kids like this cartoon or this game and whatever. I'm like, AJ, you played the great card of being the tough guy, but you are soft as cheese. And just an absolute great human being. And I'm like, man, everybody just saw you with your tattoos and whatever, and you tried to act tough. I go, dude, you're not fooling me. Like, he's and excited to see him. And one of my really good friends from college lives right by him, and they still hang out, and he's in Maryland still. And, you know, obviously I'm in Nebraska in the middle of nowhere. But no, it's just that clubhouse dynamic is so different. And then you get to know these people and you're like, that's not what I saw on TV, or that's not what I, you know, because we make assumptions. That's just who we are as human beings. But no, it's a dynamic where you just never know till you get to know them. And then until you truly, genuinely get to know them.
How about the flip side? And you can be specific here, or you could be general, but like, what about a sigh of relief when somebody on the team that nobody wants there gets booted? Has that ever been part of your clubhouse experience when the Yankees decided, or the Tigers traded somebody away that was a problem in the clubhouse, or someone you didn't like? You know, you have your public beef with Euclid and all that stuff. But was there any specific situation off the top of your head during your career where it was a lift on the clubhouse to get rid of somebody?
No, there was, honestly, in my tenure, there was not one. I'll go on the flip side of that. There was ones that we lost where I was like, damn, like that was a huge part. Like, it was
like a Jordan Montgomery type blow when the Yankees blindsided him in 2022.
It was one of those where you're like, okay, that's one of our dudes. Like, I haven't had the one, like the sigh of relief one that you're talking about. I've had other ones where, like, I wanted to cry losing these guys. I mean, the only like addition, it wasn't at the deadline or anything. It was obviously when we signed Euclid's punk ass, and didn't do anything for us. But yeah, no, I think the biggest one I had from, and not like, oh, thank God we got rid of him. He was trade bait, but he was also a cancer in here, and like blah blah blah. Like, no, we had a 3-team trade. We got David Price, but we traded Drew Smiley and Austin Jackson, and those were two of our dudes and really good friends of mine. And I was old enough at this point where I could, like I said before, I didn't really know certain things like with Ichiro or whatever, but I was in the clubhouse. It was me, Verlander, and Joe Nathan. And all of a sudden, Dave Dombrowski, who's now obviously with the Phillies, he was our president GM in Detroit when I was there. And so we're sitting there and they all come down. We're like, oh, it's about to go down. And so I text David, and he was on the golf course. Tampa had an off day, and he literally was like, I'm on the golf course. I was like, hey, you might want to head back to the field because I'm pretty sure you're about to get traded. And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I'm just going to tell you this. I don't know this for certain, but your name has been presented, blah, blah, blah. An inning later, 2 outs, I think in the 4th inning, Austin Jackson's playing center field. They have to pull him off the field because he had just got traded and he had to be out of the dugout or the trade was null and void. And it was a 3-team trade between Tampa, Detroit, and Seattle.
Damn.
So those, from that side of it, is where you lose some good ones. I mean, obviously we got David back. I ended up being absolutely terrible that postseason. I think I had like 140 ERA or something. I gave up the booty. I stunk. But yeah, no, I there's never been one where I've been like, yeah, thank goodness he's out of here. It's always been the other way around, where I'm like, dang it. You know, I'm not like I'm losing a friend, but like, you know, my buddy that I can hang out with on the road or whatever. And obviously I had known David just because, you know, we were in Tampa for spring training and he was down there. He lives in Tennessee now, but yeah, never one where I was like a sigh of relief of like, thank God he got out of here.
I feel like I have to follow up on one of your previous answers too, because you mentioned that there was one deadline where you thought you might get traded for Roy Halladay, and I feel like I have to just drill down.
It was back to back years.
Damn.
Both for Halladay?
Yep.
Wild.
It was me and Hughes.
That's rough. And what happened?
It's got to process that.
Yeah, no, it was weird because literally. So Len Freilich is the visiting clubhouse manager in Detroit, or no, not Detroit, Toronto. And we became good friends. Toronto is special to me because that's where I made my first ever appearance. And so it always holds a special place in my heart. And literally at deadline, every time we'd go back and play Toronto, Len had been like, well, heard you're about to get traded again for Doc. And I'm like, God rest his soul as well. And it was like me, Hughes, and then some prospects for Doc. And it was, I think, 2 years in a row. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of what people were telling me. And I was like, at that point, like, not like you can make a decision. You know, I'm young. So it's like, sure, I guess. I don't know. Like, I'd never been to Canada till 2 years ago. So I didn't know, but yeah, so that you just hear these things and it's like, all right, well, and then literally I'd get to Toronto and Len was like, well, heard we almost got you. And I was like, well, I'm still in a Yankee uniform. So I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, no, it's weird. It's weird when like you hear it and people ask you, you're like, because when you're that young and that, like, once you get to established and you have those either in your contract or whatever, or you've earned the respect and the longevity of what your career is, then it's like, hey, you know, we're thinking of making some moves and they'll talk to you. But heck, I was, you know, a year and a half in and I was like, well, I'll fold towels if you want me to. Like, I just want to stay in the big leagues. I don't want to go anywhere else. Like, I don't care where it's at. So you don't really have anything to say about it. And it's just weird when people come up to you because what's the right answer? You don't really have one like, you know, hey, and I would just try to be as calm as I could be and just do and say what was needed to be said without saying anything. Politically correct, I guess, which is probably even not a word anymore because politically correct, and we won't get into that because we don't talk about that. And I would just be like, yeah, you know what? It's something I've heard. You know what? It's whatever happens, plays itself out, and you make the best of it. Like, and don't go into details because obviously you don't know, and you have no idea what's going to happen. So you just kind of like, it's just weird when it happens because you're like, damn, I might be gone tomorrow. And you have no idea. I mean, it's like when you're in the minor leagues, like you get called in the office and see ya, you're going to AAA, or hey, you're going to the big leagues. See ya. Like, it's just weird. It's weird how it works, and you just never know, and you kind of just got to go and push it out of your mind a little bit. But when people say that, oh, I push it, you don't really do, because you still think about it, because there's time to think, and we all get in our own heads with, I don't care if you're a baseball player, if you're an electrician, or you do podcasts, like we all get in our own domes, and it's like, oh, should we do another one? Should we talk about this? Should we do this? Hey, should I have made this pitch? Should I have done this? And it's all relative. People think we're not out here curing cancer. We're out here providing entertainment.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I'm going to rethink this pitch that I just gave up a 2-run homer to, or like, hey, this show sucked. We probably shouldn't even have posted this one. Like, there's always those things, but at the end of the day, it's like, you still get to do what you love. So why not do it? Yeah, we're going to fail. Yeah, sometimes we don't know the outcome of what's going to happen or who holds it, but I'm going to go be the best I can be in the situation that I am and go from there.
We will let you go on this. Obviously, it's been about 15 years now. You checked the watch in October since we've won that ring. You mentioned right up top, interesting, kind of mundane deadline. Yankees made some intriguing additions. Nobody made anything earth-shattering. No rosters have changed in inconceivable ways. So the field's still pretty wide open. You feel pretty good about the Yankees' chances of battling with the Orioles, taking down the Orioles, what have you. Do you still feel like this is a potential World Series champion? And are there any teams right now, AL or NL, that scare you across the board? Or is it just sort of a coin flip? Like, hey, could be us, could be somebody else? Because right now it does feel pretty open.
I would honestly say it's a coin flip. I think there was some additions to some teams that could potentially, have an impact. I think there's a lot of teams that have the experience, the pedigree, and everything, that knows how to win. Sometimes that's not always the case. Even though you've been there, you've done that. I think, adding certain guys to certain teams with that experience, I think just as, Rosarena and Justin Turner with the Mariners, and adding and I think those are two great players, right? But they've also done it in the postseason, and we've seen what the Mariners and the talent they have and the young talent and all the other stuff. I think it's such a coin flip, just because there have been so many good additions with the pedigree of knowing how to win and being in those situations, being in the postseason and doing that. I wouldn't say there's a standout front. I mean, obviously, they're going to talk about the Dodgers. I mean, the Dodgers are favored to win right now. You got the Phillies. I don't think you can count anybody out right now with what's left to go and the additions. And like you even brought up and like we've talked about, there was no real blockbuster, but there were so many great additions that fit the mold of what it is to make the run and the push in October. And now it's going back in November. If you get to Game 7, makes for a long ass season. But I think it's such up in the air where you're going to bring these guys in and see where they fit and see what they do, and then make that run, whether it's coming from behind, getting in the wild card, getting hot at the right time. Like, you may be 6 back right now. Well, there's still a lot of games to be made up in that aspect, and you added certain dynamics. I'm excited because it not the sexiest trade deadline at all, but there were great acquisitions to fill spots that will make that team that much better, and to see how they come together. And if it comes to fruition, if it comes and they make a run or whatever, it's just, this one wasn't as exciting if you're from an outside perspective, but as a baseball lover, seeing bits and pieces, and yeah, mind you, there was a lot of prospects that were put up during this deadline, but it was bits and pieces of really, really good players that fit into where that team needs to get to the next level. And so it was super exciting to me. Granted, there was no huge names. I wanted to see, a blockbuster, because those are always fun, because it's like 3-team deal and there's like 12 players included and blah, blah, blah. Like, so those are exciting. But this one was exciting for me just because to be able to see the little bits and pieces and how now important that is to teams, and not necessarily just a blockbuster, but to, it's like a puzzle. You can't find that one piece, right? But when you find it, it works. And then the puzzle becomes complete. So I think that's been the coolest part about this. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a toss up. Do I think there are numerous teams that have a chance? Yes. I think it's the parity now that is in baseball, and the fact that you don't have any idea anymore is awesome, because you get new teams, you get to see new talent, new guys become superstars. I mean, nobody knew Randy Arozarena. Look what he did in the playoffs. Now he's a name. And this is what happens. And that is what I love about it. And get them in that position, see who steps up, see who doesn't, but you put guys in that situation. You feel the puzzle pieces when you need them, and you go from there. So it's going to be exciting next couple months of baseball, and I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Well, Joba Chamberlain's cat, thank you so much for joining us on the Yanks Go Yard podcast. Hopefully we'll catch up with you after Old Timers Day. You can let us know what AJ's Buddha is up to. Yeah, no doubt. I'll see which way it's turned. He better bring it, because I'm going to give him shit if he doesn't. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks again, man.
Yeah, you got it, guys.